Good morning. My name is Reverend Ed Tansey, and I, along with Rev G. Stewart, welcome you, our Facebook Live family, to our Sunday morning talk today. We are the founding ministers and spiritual leaders of this phenomenal spiritual family here, named Center for Spiritual Living, Greater Boston. And we are located on 50 Dudley Street in Cambridge, Massachusetts. And I say that if you're ever in the area, we invite you to come and visit. Come and visit us sometime so that you can experience the love of this community. And here at the center, we learn and we practice the wonderful philosophy of the science of mind, which was founded by Reverend Dr. Ernest Holmes. And this is the study of life and the nature of the laws of thought. And what Dr. Holmes did is that he synthesized the science of mind after studying the many different religions and philosophy and science. And what he did is he took what he could from them and what he felt would help and assist people, assist humanity to live that bliss-filled life, that joy-filled life, that harmonious life. So I invite you to visit our website, cslboston.org, to find out more about our community here, our spiritual family here, this phenomenal philosophy called the science of mind, and see how our community can serve you. And I ask that if you are being spiritually fed by our message this morning, to please consider including us in your prosperity circulation or tithing practices with your tax-deductible contributions that you can make right online. Rev G, myself, and our entire spiritual family here in Cambridge, thank you in advance of your continued support of our vision, our community's vision, fostering a world that works for all of creation. So welcome again. So our 2019 Center for Spiritual Living theme is spirituality and action. And July's theme, our last week in July, is called creativity. I advocate for freedom of thought. And my talk this morning is titled Living an Empowered Life. Just sounds good to me, even just saying it. So living an empowered life, what does that mean? So I looked up the definition of empower, and here's what I found. It said to give power or authority to. To give power or authority to. Now, I don't know about any of you here, but to me, that sounded like the opposite of empowerment. So personally, I don't wish to give my power or authority to anybody at all. I do not wish to do that. I want to keep my power. I want to keep my power and authority, to use it as a positive and uplifting energy for humanity to experience. That's what I want to do. That's what I call is empowerment. I just had to throw that in. That was my little personal take on that, okay? So, with that in mind, here is the definition that I do like for empower. To make someone stronger and more confident, especially in controlling their lives and claiming their rights. Claiming their rights. You see, I myself want to control my life. I want to claim the rights that I have. I want to be more strong and more confident in myself. So that to me is empowerment. So the opposite of living an empowered life, to me, simple. It's being a victim. Bottom line here is that we either live our lives coming from a victim consciousness or a victor consciousness. Victimhood or victorhood. Disempowered or empowered. I don't believe there are any gray areas here whatsoever. Victim or victim, victim or victor, disempowered or empowered. I don't see any gray areas there. You know, along with this, I think it's extremely important to keep in mind that through history, there has been people, there has been groups of people who've been victimized by others. Let's not forget that. And I don't want you to think I am minimizing any person or groups of people who have been victimized. But it's my belief that the majority of people really do not get victimized by others as a whole. You know, I'm going to share with you right now something that I've shared many times with the detainees that I work with at the prison, and what I've also shared here with my community. And I keep referring back to this story because I strongly feel it has a real powerful message about empowerment. So if you haven't heard it, great. If you have, bear with me. So in life, one can either be a thermometer or a thermostat. Do any of you remember me saying that at all? No? Maybe I didn't share with the ones sitting here. But I'll explain, so this is going to be all new to you. And maybe new to the people who are listening on Facebook. Being a thermometer is when one comes from a state of victimhood. In other words, one lets outside conditions affect them. One lets the outside conditions set the tone of their lives, or allows someone else's so-called reality to become their reality. Someone else's temperature becomes their temperature. One allows the outside energy to become their energy and affect them. That's being a thermometer. Now, being a thermostat is when one comes from a state of victorhood. Now that's a Rev Ed-ism, victorhood. It's not even a word, but I like to use that. Victorhood, okay? So in other words, it's when one does not repeat, and I'm going to repeat this, does not let the outside affect them. The outside conditions affect them. They do not allow outside conditions to set the tone for their lives, or allow someone else's so-called reality become their reality. It's when someone does not allow someone else's temperature to become their temperature, does not allow that outside energy to become their energy and affect them. So what they're doing is they are setting the vibration that they want for their lives. They are setting the tone at which they want to experience. It's just like when you set your thermostat at home. You set the temperature. You don't let the outside set it for you. You're setting what you want to experience. Does that make sense? I love that. Thermometer, thermostat. And I don't even know how that came into my head. Rev G, do you remember? Did I read it? I read it somewhere.
Something in Science of Mind.
It had to be somewhere in the magazine, something.
One of the readings
it really affected me.
Ago.
And I use that so many times with the prisoners that I work with. And I can see them lighting up. So now they'll even say to each other, are you being a thermometer or are you being a thermostat? I love it because we're putting it into practice. So, now there are many factors that help us live an empowered life. Would you agree? All right. I've picked 4 that I'd like to talk about. I've picked 4. All right, so the first one is intention. The second one is perspective. The third one is flexibility. And the fourth one is oneness. All right? Intention, this is not working. Flexibility. Intention, perspective, flexibility, and oneness. So here's a little about each one, okay? Okay. Intention. Know what you want to focus on. Know your goals in life. It could be a great career, a great marriage, a nurturing family, buying a new sports car, buying a new home, eating a healthy food intake. It could be any one of those and more. Exercising more, whatever it may be. It's beneficial for each of us to set real clear intentions for our outer life's desires. And as one sets those clear outer intentions, I strongly feel it's just as important to set clear intentions for your inner life. And what that looks like for me is that I set clear spiritual intentions during my prayers, my meditations, my daily spiritual practices, knowing that they will change and grow through the years, just as they will change for my outer life intentions. You see, our intentions change as we live our lives. Our intentions change as times go by. So some of the inner intentions I would like to, for myself, be clear on is, what do I want to experience inwardly? The peace, the joy, the love, the harmony, because we know it all begins with ourselves, with what we think and feel. So intention is very important. And with intention, I feel it brings me to live an empowered life. So the next one is perspective. For me, it's how I look at life, how I look at what's happening around me, personally, socially, and worldly. And I believe that we achieve perspective with faith, knowing that all things are working together for everyone's highest, best, and highest good, myself and all of humanity. Now, of course, I'm referring to the perspectives that are positive for everyone, positive. And with that, I have to say what came to my mind is that I realize that there are times that personally I cannot see some of the bigger picture of the challenges that that I might be going through, etc. in my life. I can't see or have those challenges look in a way that isn't great for me, but I know that when I'm in a place of faith, when I'm in that place of faith, when I'm in that place of faith and thinking that there is a bigger picture, what that does for me, it helps soften. It helps soften, let's say, the upsetting events that might occur for me. And it also expands or heightens the events that bring delight to my life, that are delightful for me to experience. So you see, it's with faith and gratitude that helps me keep a spiritual perspective for myself. It really does. That helps me so much, I have to say. And living with this kind of perspective brings me to living an empowered life. So the third, before I go into the third thing, I'm going to re-quote from what I quoted last week because I think it's so meaningful here. The quote by Eric Butterworth, if you put that up on the screen. And it states, "Life does not happen to me. It happens for you." To you. I'm changing it. Life does not happen to you, it happens for you. Let's all say that out loud. Life does not happen to you, it happens for you. So when I think of perspective also, there's a story that always comes to mind and I kind of laugh. And here's the story. You have two siblings growing up together, same parents, same house, same dinner table, etc., etc., etc. There's an evening in the past when they were both there. The two siblings were both there at the same table, the same time, in the same experience, the same everything. Then years later, the siblings recall that evening and share their recollection of it. They share their recollection of that evening. Coming to find out, there were two different total explanations of that evening. Two totally different explanations coming from two different perspectives, right? It was the same thing that happened, but because of their perspectives, they saw it differently. So one comes to one wonders, were they in the same house? Did they have the same family? And did they have that same evening? Like, wow, what the heck's going on here? And that always makes me laugh, because then sometimes you'll see the siblings, they'll look at each other like, were we there together? So do you see how perspective can really, it has such an important part to the many, many ways. There's so many different ways that a person can relate to or interpret or see the happenings in their life on a personal, social, or global level. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? So when I can have a clear perspective coming from faith, that brings me to living an empowered life. So the third one is flexibility. Flexibility. The ability to be easily modified, willingness to change or compromise, to change one's stance, outlook, or commitment. Now, some people consider flexibility as a weakness. I've heard people actually say that they felt weak in their flexibleness. But I see flexibility as a strength. It's a strength as long as I can be flexible and be strong in my faith as the time goes on. Be strong in my faith knowing that there's a natural order of life that I can trust. I can trust this. I know that. I have learned that change in my vintage time is inevitable. Change is inevitable. So I don't worry about that as my life proceeds, because there are and will always be changes to some degree. I bet you there's no one in this room who can't agree with that, who doesn't agree with that, right? Think about it. You're all going to have changes in your life, am I right? As your time goes on. So knowing that, and coming from that consciousness, what I need to do is be present to the changes in my life and to the world, and to remain open to the flow of good. To be open to the flow of good and remain rooted in truth. Plain and simple. Remain rooted in truth, people. The spiritual truth. The spiritual truth that we live by. That I live by. That you live by. And when I come from living the spiritual truths, I know deep down that it really behooves me to be flexible and go with the flow of good. Go with the flow of the divine. And this brings me to living an empowered life. I don't have to feel like I'm a fish going swimming upstream, because if that's my feeling, something's wrong with that picture. It shouldn't be me swimming upstream. It should be me flowing with the river, flowing with the stream, because that's the path that God really wants for me to follow. I have to be in tune to that. So the fourth one is oneness. Oneness. Knowing my oneness. It's a big word. Oneness. Many people use it, but I wonder, do they really know and believe what they're saying? Knowing my oneness. Knowing my inseparableness with the divine. Knowing my inseparableness with God, with all people, and with all of nature. So it is really knowing, it's a person knowing their nature and oneness, and knowing that it's part of who and whose they are. So when I'm embodying oneness, when I'm embodying the principle of oneness, and I embody that I am created in the image and likeness of the divine, that I am created in the likeness and image of God, living an empowered life, I know will be mine. I know that that is what I will experience right here and right now, because embodying what I've just mentioned, I feel, is the foundation. It's the very strong, unshakable foundation of my strength, the foundation of my power, the foundation of me living that magnificent, empowered life that each and every one of us is meant to experience. Each and every one of us, we are meant to live that empowered life, that blissful life, that magnificent life. And knowing these mentioned spiritual truths, that I'm made in its image and likeness, and that I am one of its creations, that I then know that I, because of that, have the ability, through the use of my mind, all the power and strength, to experience the magnificence that I want to experience coming from an empowered life. It's this power and strength that has been given to me by my Creator, because I am a child of the divine. I am one of its precious creations, and so isn't everyone else. So isn't everyone else one of its precious creations. Even the people who seem to be experiencing a sense of separation from the God of their understanding and the rest of the world. You know, also when I come from that consciousness that the divine knows good and only good, and that the divine is limitless, that the divine has given me that great gift of choice, and that I am one with that energy. This means that I am limitless in my potential. That means I am all powerful. That means I have the ability to live the life that is bliss-filled, to live that life that is magnificent, to live that life that makes a difference, that makes a difference. And because of that gift of choice, I also have the ability to change any thought that I may entertain that is not for my highest and best good, and also the highest and best good for all humanity. I've got that. Everyone else has that, because we are all one. We are all that, though, the precious creations who individually and uniquely express God as they see God, as they understand the God of their understanding. So now piggybacking on oneness, I feel, is authentic living. Authentic living. When we can live our true nature, when we can live authentically, being real and true to who and what we are and whose we are, letting our unique individualized expressions shine forth as we show up in life, This is when, I'm going to repeat this again, this is when we are living an empowered life. This is when we live in that state of victorhood, being able and comfortable to live authentically is a place where my power comes from, a place where my power is strengthened, a place that boosts my power. Shining my light for all to see, wherever, whenever I show up. Shining my light, showing up as precious me being centered and rooted in the truth of my being. And it's because of this authentic living that I'm experiencing within the peace, the balance, the harmony, and joy. This certainly to me is living an empowered life. So our founder, Ernest Holmes, wrote a series of statements, 11 of them, that are basic principles. They're guiding lights to live a successful, empowered life. Now, they're called the Declaration of Principles officially, and they're also known as the We Believe statements, and you see them mentioned in every Science of Mind magazine. They're in the front usually. And I want you to keep that in mind and follow me now for the next part of this talk. So the book of the month for July was written by Anthony Ray Hilton and Laura Love Hardin, titled The Sun Does Shine. Okay? And this is a picture of Anthony. So Anthony Ray Hinton, spelled it wrong. Okay, Hilton, I'm thinking of the all right, Anthony Hinton, spelled it wrong. Hinton lived for 30 years on death row for a murder he did not commit. Today, he is a free individual. And here's what I gathered from that book, okay? What he did is that he based his sense of who he was and how he wanted to show up in life on his own spiritual beliefs and spiritual principles. And they were namely, I believe, hope, justice, and love. And not based on the conditions he found himself in for 30 years. He used these principles to transform his own consciousness, and then he assisted other prisoners to transform theirs. Now, I certainly know that he wasn't the first person to prove that you can place someone in absolutely horrendous conditions, and yet they refuse to be victims. I know he wasn't the first one, but this book was amazing. I invite you all to read this book. You know, now, I don't know if Anthony was a religious scientist or not. I have no idea. But he, I feel, is a perfect example of our process of transformation or manifestation. From the inner to the outer, he moved himself from victim consciousness to empowered consciousness. And it was then that things on the outer began to change for him. He changed his thinking and kept it changed. He changed his consciousness, changed himself. He refused to indulge in blame or anger. He refused that. And then his conditions changed. This is how also we move from victimhood to victorhood, from victim to victor, from victim to empowerment. This is living an empowered life. Would you agree? Mm-hmm. And now, what I'd like you all to do is sit back. because we're going to go through a meditation. And this meditation is built from the idea that each of us has within himself or herself a deeper nature. And of course, this deeper nature being an eternal unity with God or with the living spirit is more than man. So I invite you to close your eyes and breathe deeply. This deeper nature, it is where the being of man or the nature of man merges into the being of God. Breathe that in. And as we dip deeply into our divine nature, let us realize that entering the secret presence of this tabernacle of God, we will, like the pilgrims of old, have to shed that which does not belong to the kingdom of good. We have to deliberately drop that which would hurt. We cannot enter this gate of good with a sword in our hands. So we let go of everything. Breathe in, let go, and turn to that divine depth within, our own nature, wherein the Spirit of God, the Spirit of love, and the Spirit of peace dwells with calm serenity. Just be for a moment with this. We withdraw into that place within us which has never been hurt, nor has ever been sick, has always and forever lived in divine and eternal peace. The kingdom of God, which is good. And this inner kingdom within is all peace. This kingdom is all power. This kingdom is all perfection. We drop all hate, all fear, all animosity, all resentment. I'm going to repeat that. Breathe that in. We drop all hate, all fear, all animosity, all resentment. We cast out of our consciousness every doubt and every sense of uncertainty. We know that we are entering into that atmosphere of wholeness, that atmosphere of happiness, that atmosphere and completion where there is no fear, no doubt, no uncertainty, no lack, no want. Here is wholeness, perfection. Here is peace, power, beauty, love. Here is supply and life. We know that the abundance of this life is showered upon us. It is showered upon us. That we are guided and guarded into right action, into right decision, daily, hourly, minutely. The principle of intelligence directs us. The presence of love warms us. The peace of God covers us. And we are led into the pathway of this peace. We are led into the knowledge of this perfection. Breathe that in. We are conscious of the indwelling God. And we are conscious that the indwelling God is filling, instantly renewing our bodies. Absolutely. Eliminating from us whatever there is that does not belong. Eliminating from us whatever there is that does not belong. Coordinating every function, every organ, every action and reaction. The circulation, the assimilation, and the elimination. Making it perfect. The life principle of every part of our being is perfect and harmonious, and now functions perfectly in us. The whole order of discord is changed into the natural order of harmony and wholeness. And we let that divine power be exactly what it is in us. We are no longer afraid, for love casts out fear. We are no longer afraid because love casts out fear. Our faith destroys all fear. We awake from the dream of fear to the vision of reality, where there is no shadow of which to be afraid. We awake from the dream of lack and want and unhappiness to the knowledge of harmony, of abundance, of peace. I allow myself to dip deeply into my divine nature. I allow myself to dip deeply into my divine nature. I invite you to slowly bring yourself back to this room, back to the sanctuary. I invite you at home to bring yourself back to wherever you are. And I invite each and every one of you to dig deeply. Dig deep. Namaste.
Namaste.
Now, if you would join me in the spiritual mind treatment that I would like to do. And the purpose of this treatment is that I know that as one lives an empowered life, that all the bliss, harmony, and magnificence that one experiences is theirs from living this empowered life. Coming from this purpose, I fully know and realize that there is that one absolute creative energy, one absolute creative intelligence, a universal intelligence, a light energy that goes by many, many names. Its name is not important, but the consciousness of its presence is. I call this energy God. Some call it Buddha, Krishna, Allah, the thing itself, infinite intelligence, whatever. And I know that this energy is present right here, right now, eternally. It is in, through, and as everything that exists in the seen and unseen form. It is all that there is. It is all that can be and could be. It is all one power. The power of good, the power of the divine, the power of God. I am one with this power. I am made in its image and likeness. And I uniquely express this energy as only I can. And I know, as this is my truth, that this is the truth of everyone present here, that this is the truth of everyone throughout the cosmos, that this is true for every one of God's creation. This is the truth. And each one is inseparable from the God of their understanding, this one power. And it's this inseparableness that brings about a wholeness for each one, that brings about a perfection for each one, that brings about a foundation of strength, of love, of joy, of peace. It brings about such a strong foundation of love. That's the cement, the love. Cements it together, makes it strong. And I now speak the word right here and right now today, this morning, knowing that as one lives that empowered life, as one comes from that consciousness, as one comes from that strong, inseparable foundation based in love, as one lives from this, lives authentically from that consciousness, that life is blissful, that the magnificence that the divine wants for each one of its creations to experience is experienced right here and right now in all areas of their life. And as one basks in the truth of who and whose they are, this joy, this magnificence, this greatness of life is what is experienced coming from this consciousness. And I am so grateful that I know this truth, that I proclaim this truth, that I call forth this truth. I am grateful seeing the smiles on people's faces as they walk by me, as people share life together, share this journey, knowing that it's a smile of confidence. It's a smile of people who are living authentically. It's the smile from people who are living the empowered life that each one is meant to live. This I am thankful for. This I am grateful for. And I release this prayer. I release this word into the law, knowing it is done. Because once released into the law, that creative medium, in the mind of God, this is done. Being the one mind, then it's done in each and every one's mind. This is done to its perfect completion. Perfect manifestation. As perfect, as complete, and as whole as each one. And please join me in gratitude and in love and in knowing with the following words. And so it is. Affirmation. And and here is an affirmation written by someone I think you might know, Reverend Ed Jansen. Gee, where is he from? CSL Greater Boston. All right, let's read this all together. As I live authentically, coming from my divine nature, I live an empowered life and experience all the good of the universe. Can we say that once more?
Yes.
As I live authentically, coming from my divine nature, I live an empowered life and experience